What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Jason Avant here. Jason Avant of the Q&A show. I'm here with my partner in crime, my teammate, one of my great friends, Quintin Mikell. What's up, Q? Say what's up to the people.
What's up, everybody? Another week. We're happy to be back and excited for talking some more Eagles ball.
Yeah, we're excited about it, and we also just want to always take our time out to thank all of the fans and everyone that's responsible for making our show a success. We want to say thank you to Jeff and Adam and Hunter and Jim and everyone that's responsible at Inside the Birds. Make sure that you guys are following Inside the Birds YouTube channel, Amazon Music, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Also, the Q&A show. Make sure that you're diving into our content. We have a great time, a ball doing this. So thank you guys. Make sure also that you send your questions to insidethebirds@gmail.com, insidethebirds@gmail.com. Submit your questions there. We'll be answering those questions throughout the summer and leading up to the season. So we want to say thank you guys again and again and again and again. Q, let's dive into this week. There was some bombshell type of news to me because I thought it was very, very disrespectful news when it came to the Chris Sims story. I didn't say Phil Sims. I said Chris Sims. I didn't say the one that was successful in the NFL. I said Chris Sims. And I'm not saying it because I'm not a big name player. Neither one of us were big name players, but there was a level of success that we could, speak to certain things. Then you have Chris Sims, who's a great football mind. And I don't want to take that away from him because he's a great analyst. But I thought when it came to the Birds, I have to start bringing it up because that was like fighting words to me. So I started talking. I had to go at his career a little bit because that's fighting words talking about the Birds. But he basically said that Jalen Hurts wasn't in his top 40 quarterbacks in the NFL. And there were routine throws that high school seniors should make that Jalen Hurts didn't make. And when you start getting into that, the undertone is disrespectful, and you begin to look at the guys that are placed on this list and the guys that are above him and the guys that are in his top 20. It's very bizarre and weird. Like there's some type of angle and some type of point he's trying to prove. So what do you think about his comments?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And he had a successful college career, and you don't want to what you don't want to do is take his football knowledge away. But I had to question it. I mean, first of all, if you look at his list, top 40, first of all, he has Tom Brady at, I think he was at number 10. Like, okay, what? All right, and so we're talking about one of the arguably the top, if not the best quarterback, the top two quarterbacks. One of the top two quarterbacks of all time in Tom Brady,
without a question.
And you got him at number 10. So, so that right there shows me off the top that either he's working an angle where he's just trying to create some kind of controversy or, just try to get his name talked about. I don't know what's going on, but I think you instantly lose a ton of credibility when you have a guy like Tom Brady at number 10. So the first, and then the other part that's really frustrating is like the disrespect of comparing an NFL starting quarterback to a high school quarterback. And not only was that not enough, but the fact that you've got two rookies that haven't even stepped foot on the field, ranked higher than them.
No, all of the rookies.
Yeah.
So you got all of them. You got Justin Fields, you got Trey Lance, you got Zach Wilson. You got all of them. You get all of them. All of them.
My God, yeah.
All of them are ahead of him. It's not just one or two.
Mac Jones on there too. Wow.
Yeah, Mac Jones. Yeah, the top 5 quarterbacks in the draft were ahead of him.
That's crazy. And so, and then you see Taysom Hill. First of all, you had Taysom Hill at 24. Taysom Hill is a glorified tight end.
Yeah.
Gadget player, in my opinion. Not hating on the guy, tremendous player. I love watching him play. But he hasn't even played enough quarterback to really even garner that type of rating. So
yeah,
it just doesn't make any sense. It's frustrating because you look at a guy like Hurts and the amount of disrespect that he's had to deal with from his days in college to now. It's just, I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, it's a bizarre take, and you know what? This is what I think. Face value, me looking at it and seeing where I think this all stems, and it goes back to Carson Wentz. Right. So Chris Sims have had some hot takes on different things about Carson Wentz and how the Eagles were, made mistakes and with Carson Wentz, and how he doesn't have players around him and different things of that nature. And then you see Carson Wentz ranked 18th on his list. How in the hell? And I love Carson. I love the man that he is. I love, the teammate that he is, because Carson's a very good teammate. But how in the hell can you say that Carson Wentz is rated 18th after the season he had last year? Yeah. Is this an cumulative list? If this was an cumulative list, right, years past, Tom Brady should be number one. So that lets me know that it's not an cumulative list, and you're saying, okay, it was based on last year. And apparently this has nothing to do with the playoffs and when real competition start. Otherwise, Tom Brady would be number one. Oh, the other thing about that is that if you have Carson Wentz rated 18th, the man finished last in pretty much every statistical category for starting quarterbacks last year. Last in sacks, last in turnovers, last in third down complete. Like it was a bad season for Carson. And I don't hate Carson. I'm not on I'm not against Wentz. I will tell you as it is. He didn't play well, and he got benched because he didn't play well, and he should have been benched a little bit sooner than that.
Yes.
And it was just a bad year. Can he overcome and recover? Of course he could. Now, with that being said, if you're rating Carson 18 and you're going to rate the guy that replaced him outside of the top 40, that doesn't make sense to me. Right. And especially with the season that Carson had. So that lets me know that this here is about the Eagles organization and his disapproval of letting go Carson Wentz and Jason and Jalen Hurts being the incumbent starter, the new starter. And that's what this is about. This has nothing to do with, he had some grades. And remember Chris Sims, along with the others, have their college draft boards, and they have the guys that they slotted and the guys that they liked last year, this year, so forth and so forth. And Jalen Hurts wasn't one of those guys that impressed him last year. So therefore, let's drive the nail a little bit deeper, a little bit further, be a little bit more annoying. Let's put him down a little bit more to let you know how much I don't think he's going to be successful in this league. And that's what this was. It was a guy taking his stand saying, hey, I like these guys before. I really don't like him. He hasn't shown me anything. And, so and that's all of that is where that's what I glean from the situation.
I agree. And then to me, the biggest issue, and a lot of times you'll occasionally have analysts do something like this. But to me, the thing that is the most frustrating is there was no proof. Like I didn't see a video clip of him of Hurts not being able to make this throw. I didn't see any stats associated with his statement. So it really just stuck out as, like you said, like I don't like this guy and I don't like where he's at, so I'm going to try to put him down. And so if you're going to make a statement like that, at least have some stats, at least have some video clips, at least have something to back it up other than I know high school quarterbacks that can make that, and he didn't make that throw. Like show me the throw. Show me the throws that he's missing.
It's very rare when Jalen is set. Does he miss a throw? The kid, and that's the thing that drives me nuts about it, is because if anybody watched Jalen Hurts, and if you sit around in practice or you sit around in a game, the one thing that you will know is that the kid is accurate. Yeah. He's not just some dude running around scrambling with the ball. Last year, because of the predicament that he was in and the way that they use him and his inability to, not his inability, but the coach's inability to, make the second quarterback Taysom Hill dynamic work, right? So you have him doing these trick plays rather than learning the offense. Mm-hmm. You have him doing all of these gadget things, and he's coming in. So he's coming in running. He's coming in doing things that that are not necessarily benefiting his career. He's coming in trying to be. He was the I would say the person. He was just a nice way. The coaches didn't want to say, "Hey, Carson, you playing bad, so let me get him in there as close as I can." He was the politically correct way last year when he was in there with Carson, and that's just the truth. So he's not inaccurate. Does he mess up because he don't know something right now? Yes, that's what young players do. But don't tell me that he's inaccurate, because Daniel Jones is not inaccurate. Daniel Jones gets confused. He gets startled by the rush. Those things. Tell me something of that nature that's substantive, that's substantial. But don't tell me that the kid just can't make a throw. That's inaccurate. That's false, and that's lazy. And it pissed me off. That part pissed me off. So let me stop cursing on you. Right.
No, I see. I like the fire, man. So and Philly fans, they're not going to take too kindly to Mr. Sims doing that. So
no, like if you just come out and tell me your true statement. Just tell me your true statement. I disagree with Howie and the organization not undergirding or supporting Carson Wentz. I believe that drafting Jalen Hurts in that position in the second round was a detriment to Carson Wentz's future, and therefore I disagree with that. So I didn't like Jalen Hurts coming out. Say that.
Yeah.
Don't say that the kid that's shown tremendous strides from his inability to pass at Alabama because he ran so much, getting his job taken from Tua to almost winning a Heisman the year after that, and then coming in being a starting NFL quarterback and beating basically Carson Wentz out every day in practice. Don't say that he can't. Just tell me your angle. All right, it's received better.
I like it.
Yeah. So sorry about that, man. I got a little riled up.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, let's keep going. We're going to go into some of the questions. There's some good questions. There's a lot of good questions for you this week. And again, fans, make sure that you are sending your questions to insidethebirds@gmail.com. Also, you can direct message us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll make sure that we get those questions on the show. All right. So first question, Q, I'm going to ask you this question because it's basically defense. It's a few questions that are starting off defense. Wilton says, can you explain the purpose of a defensive line and/or linebacker shift? Is it just for gap assignments, for blitz, or something more important?
Yeah. So the simplest way is it's all of the above. So it could be a lot of times when you set your front, right? So let's say the team comes out with two backs in the backfield and a tight end. Okay, a lot of defensive quarter, like basically you want to set your front. So everyone knows how to line up. You want to set your front to the tight end, which means let's say the tight ends to the defense's left. All right, we'll make let's say a left call, and the strength of the defense aligns to the tight end. So now everyone knows how to align in their proper gaps and proper alignments on the defensive side of the ball. So what a lot of teams do, and I remember playing, teams like Gruden. One of his biggest things that he used to do was he liked to do a lot of shift, a lot of different movements to get the defense kind of overthinking before the play snap. So what a team will do is they'll line their tight end to one side, let's say to the defensive left, and then all of a sudden they'll trade him, sort of flip him to the other side. So now the defense has to shift because you don't want to get that, you don't want to lose that advantage or be at a disadvantage by having your line set to the wrong side.
So that's based off the offense.
Based off the offense. So a lot of it has to do with adjusting to the offense. It could be motions. It could be all different types of things for shifts and linebacker shifts. One thing I did notice that the Eagles did is, and if you back when Schwartz was the DC, they did a lot of stemming. So a lot of times you'll see Brandon Graham line up, let's say over the left tackle or the left guard. And then you'll see him like right before the snap, he'll stem down and almost like he's slanting and he's trying to time it to where as soon as the quarterback snaps the ball, the center snaps the ball, he's stemming inside and flying up the field before they have a chance to adjust. So that's a little bit different for me. To me, I look at that as a stunt. That's more of a way for the defense to try to catch their offensive lineman off guard.
Mm-hmm.
So in a nutshell, the shifts, they do have a purpose. A lot of it has to do with alignment. A lot of it has to do with making sure that you're not at a disadvantage when you're trying to attack an offense. And then also to counterbalance what the offense is trying to do by switching, movements and tight ends and motions and all kind of stuff. So essentially, it's a little bit of all of that together. There are some times where you can add a blitz in there with a shift. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's there as an option as well.
Yeah. That's great insight, Q. Thank you for that, and to learning a bunch from you. I've always viewed it as shifts is usually when the defensive coordinator, if the offense didn't cause the shift, it's something that the defensive coordinator has picked up on film. Mm-hmm. An advantage that he knows. Maybe it's a formation, key that he saw where the fullback is offset to this side, or when the tight end is lined up, when there's two tight ends to the side, they run the ball majority of that time, right? So I think when offenses are lazy and they're not checking their tendencies, yes, it's easier for defenses to gain that advantage with shifts. Because I remember playing the Vikings. They beat the doors off of us too up there one time. And there was a few formations that we had that we only, we just put them in. So we had a few plays in it, and all of them was running plays. And we showed it for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. Mm-hmm. And I remember the big Williams boys, as soon as we lined up, as soon as we started our cadence, shift, boom, right into it. I'm talking about right into the gap that we was running into, and the whole line slanted right to the play. And it was like a 4-yard loss. And it was like, dude, we need to stop running this play. And it was something that when offenses get lazy and defensive coordinators can do that type of stuff, it's usually letting you know that it's time for you to change some stuff up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
The next question, Q, this is also for you. This is our man, Jerry C. Jerry C's putting in his questions, man. We had Jerry C a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
All right, for Q. Can you explain how all the various zone coverages work? This is going to be a long question. So we have to kind of dial this back a little bit. But yeah. Cover 2, cover 3. So
I'll try to answer that one really quick. Essentially, a cover 2 coverage is any coverage where you have 2 deep safeties. Mm-hmm. A cover 3 or cover 1 is any coverage where you have a single safety in the middle of the field. There's many different types of 2 deep coverages. There's a Tampa 2, which
was created for Randy Moss.
Yeah. There's a Tampa 2, then there's quarter, half, meaning you're playing quarter, and half. There's 2-man. So there's all different types of ways you can do a cover 2. Cover 3 is pretty much what it is. It's a single high. There's very few variances of it. You could change it up in different ways by rolling guys over and different things like that. But essentially, what you have is 3 guys that are basically the cap on the defensive backs. On defensive secondary. Yeah. So mm-hmm. So you'll have a cornerback and then a free safety. They're basically all the way to the field. So basically, if you divide the field into 3 sections in the cover 3, you have 3 guys that are supposed to be responsible all the way to the end zone. On a cover 2, you have 2 guys that are responsible half of the fields all the way to the end zone. So essentially, it's pretty simple in that sense. There's so many different ways you can adjust it and different coverages and different ways to play it. But essentially, that's what it is. And then as far as the second part of his question,
what do you mean that?
You got it.
Yeah, so let me say into that. So the underneath coverages on those 2 coverages, right? So it's all about to me as a receiver, it's all about knowing the responsibility of the inside guys and knowing where the drops are going to be. When you hear zone coverages like cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, cover 5, there's a sweet spot in all of those zones that are open based on that zone. I automatically know if I hear the term cover 3 that if they're not a carry team, meaning that the underneath defenders in cover 3 runs with the slots and things of that nature, carry people up the field, I know that the seams are going to be open in cover 3, right? So if you run 4 verticals, the 2 seam throws up the hashes usually are going to be pretty close to being open or close to the numbers, like two yards inside the numbers, right? So those throws are going to be open. And if I hear cover 2, I know that either if they don't play a Tampa 2, which the linebacker is running the middle of the field, that defense was like Derek Brooks, Brian Urlacher, tall, athletic guys that's hard to throw the ball over the top or on a line to them. They have to throw it in the air. The safety can recover by that time, right? So I know it's a hole in the middle, holes on the outside in between the corners and the safety, and there's a hole right over the ball. So based on those things, you have to know from an offensive perspective where people are, so you know where the holes in the zone, especially for offense coordinators, and usually the great defensive coordinators, they and the great defensive players, they usually know where their own holes are, where the weaknesses are, and they usually figure out ways to cover those weaknesses up with their alignment, with tricks that they can do. If their person drop off there, sometimes where the corner can go play in between the seam, in between the outside go route. Like, it's very, very interesting. That's when you start getting into chess, but it's a fun time.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. And I think to agree with you, I agree with you on that. The best defensive coordinators do a combination of those. You can't just sit in the. Now, I will say, the Bears, when they were running that Tampa 2, they were really good at it. And
really, really good at it.
Everyone knew what they were going to run. They didn't care. They worked well together. But other than that, you have to be able to change up your coverages. You have to have different looks at all times, because you get studied just like everyone else.
Well, you need Hall of Fame players to run the same stuff over and again, and that's the thing that people don't realize, right? So if you're a defense that run the same thing over and over again, you got Hall of Famers in your defense.
Yes.
You just do. The Bears were able to do it. You got Lance Briggs, that's arguably a Hall of Famer. You got Peanut Tillman, that's arguably one of the best at getting the ball out. You got Brian Urlacher, which is one of the best linebackers that ever played this game, and it was very, very hard for people to deal with because their talent was so great. And the same thing with the Tampa 2 defense down there, and with Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp and all those guys, Rondé Barber. So Lynch. You have whenever you have Hall of Famers, you can stay in the same defense and it's hard to catch up to you. But other than that, you got to be able to switch it up.
Yeah, that's real. All right.
So the second part
of the question.
Yeah. You want to go to the second part? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, he did have a second part.
Yeah, I can read the second part because it's the same question. For both, if Dillard wins the left tackle job, can Mailata line up at the tight end on short yardage, both to block, and more importantly, can he catch good enough to run some play action to him off that? For Q, what will you think about having to tackle a monster like that in the open field?
So I had to go back and look at some of his videos, and the dude is a freak. He's big as hell. He's fast, he's athletic. One thing I did notice though in rugby, there wasn't a whole lot of leg tackling, and that's all he would be getting at that size.
He's not gonna last.
He get his knees tore up. So I think me personally, what's funny? Like, if I look at Mailata and I look at Dillard, it's almost like if you could combine them both, you'd have a Hall of Famer. I think Mailata is not as good with the speed rush. I think he's better with the bull rush. And I think it's the opposite with Dillard. I think he's better versus speed rush, and he struggles with the bull rush. And so, maybe a little bit of a combination, having them both, and extra O-lineman sets could work. But I don't see him moving to tight end. I can't. There's too much need for depth at the O-line position in the NFL, and especially with this team, I can't see them wasting his time going to tight end.
Yeah, so like I get there is always the extra lineman on the goal line. Todd Harrimans and other linemen that have caught touchdowns, Lane and other tight ends that have caught touchdowns. So yes, any offensive lineman can be an extra lineman that plays the tight end position down on the goal line in special situations. But realize that the NFL is so short on numbers that you will never have a guy on your team just to do that. Nope. Right. So if he's not playing left tackle or backup left tackle, there's no use for any other thing because you got guys that's going to catch the ball better than him. You got guys that are going to run the ball better than him. You have guys that throw the ball better than him. So there's nothing that he can do better than somebody else on the roster at those other things, even though he was a great rugby player. And again, you haven't tackled or he haven't met people that don't stop and that's running 20 yards away from you and don't care that you're 350 pounds because 350 pounders, that ball is coming out. When a big guy get that ball in his hands, everybody on the field knows that that's a free fumble waiting to happen. Am I lying?
100%. His popping out.
You see it on special teams, like one of those big guys get the ball on special teams, they run it down. We're like, oh, let's go get the ball, hurry up, get the ball. That's what we think.
And the coach on the sidelines like, get down. You know, those guys, they're like, this is my moment. This is my time. And another thing I'm gonna add to that, that makes that difficult to run that type of play over and over is the NFL has a rule that if you are in as an extra offensive lineman, you have to register. So you have to, everyone in the stadium will know Mailata, he's lining up as an eligible tight end. So everybody's eyes are going to be on him. So
reporting eligible.
You could probably get away with that play maybe once, maybe twice a year. Doing some kind of a trick play to get him the ball, but I don't think it's feasible. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
So, but that's a good question. I mean, I do like both of those guys. I wish Diller was, and we talked about it before. I wish he was a little bit better versus the.
I wish he was tougher.
RS. Yeah,
that's it. Like that's the sad part is that you just you wish he was a little bit more like I want him to want it. I don't want him to be questioning himself like the comment that he made earlier. Like, no, want it. Go out there and say, there's no way that a dude that's been playing rugby his whole life is going to beat me out of that. You got to have that type of pride.
Yeah. You need it. You need it at this level.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go. All right. This one is from Chucks. I kind of like that. It's different. So Jason and Quintin, who is the greatest running back in Eagles franchise history? Brian Westbrook or LaShawn McCoy? It's really close, but I've always argued for Westbrook. He was the more versatile and all-around player. His numerous big plays in the playoffs add so much to his legacy. And he was the better leader. But I love to hear what you think, so since you witnessed both of them in their primes.
Oh, man. That's a tough one. It's a tough one because you're talking about really good players and forgive Chucks, Mr. Van Buren, Steve, Will Montgomery.
Yeah.
Forgive him for not knowing about your legacy. You're talking about a guy with 69 touchdowns in Steve Van Buren. You're talking about a guy that's finished that second leading all time in Wilbur Montgomery, for the Eagles. Now, the stat that I did find out about Steve Van Buren, he had 42 fumbles. You can't play in the National Football League with 42 fumbles.
Wow.
That's you talking about 42 fumbles. You can't play this game. No. In comparison, like Westbrook with 12 in his whole career. Shady, as much as he fumbled, only 14. You know what I mean? So it's like, or lost fumbles. You know what I mean? So you can't fumble the ball. You can't lose that many fumbles. Just can't.
Real.
But so let's get back on topic. All right. So between the two, both are great. Those are two guys that don't take hits.
Right. Yep.
They don't take hits. Guys that good and that elusive that can make you off balance right before you're about to tackle, make you second guess. Right. So guys it's very, very hard to shoot unless it's right in the hole and they can't duck. They can't go anywhere. But it's very, very hard to get to that point with those guys because they're so elusive. And even in that point, they can shake you in the last second and and you only tackle half of a leg. You know what I mean? So that's the part that you love about them. I would say that Brian was better at blitz pickup. He was more mature and he was versatile. But Shady was young when he was here as well. So and Shady grew up a lot faster in Buffalo. But the overall player, I would have to go B West, but we're talking about very, very small windows. Now, we're talking about Philadelphia Eagles career only. We're not talking about what Shady done in Buffalo and his story, because Shady is going to go down as a better running back than Brian Westbrook.
Very true.
So for you guys that don't know that, Shady was the leading rusher of a decade in the NFL.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? From 2010 to 2020, he was the leading rusher in the NFL.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
Yes. So Shady is an all-time great running back. Westbrook is more of the complete package because of his special teams value, because of his elder statesman like mindset and small beginnings, Villanova, country, Maryland kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you consider those things in his Eagles career, it would be Westbrook. But when you consider a total NFL career, it would be LaShawn McCoy.
I agree.
Yeah.
And my only thing I'll add to that, and I agree with you 100%. I think Westbrook and his Eagles career was a better player. So a lot of times when you have a situation like this where you got two guys that are just pretty much the same, there's little minute differences. Mm-hmm. I just look at it like, can one do the same thing that the other does or did? And I think when you look at the special teams, the catching the ball off the backfield, the screen game, the big plays and crunch time, I have Westbrook edging Shady just a little bit, just because he was so, like, I agree with you, he was much more versatile, and just seemed like, playing on those teams, it just seemed like whenever we needed a big play from him, like, we always got one. And so I gotta give it to Westbrook by a hair.
And the thing I want you guys to remember about Brian Westbrook, he's always had to split his time.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Right. So that's one caveat that you guys always have to throw in there when you're looking at statistics and you're looking at all-time greats. Like, usually there's a good backup, but there's never three. Brian Westbrook had, Deuce, and he had Correll Buckhalter, and he had Brian Mitchell. And there's a lot of guys in and out during his time. He only had like 1 or 2 seasons where he was the premier back. And in those seasons, when I was there in those seasons, he killed it when he was premier. The time before Shady came and he was just a premier back, like, he was a Pro Bowler. He was stiff arming dudes. You remember the stiff arm he gave? Who was that he gave the stiff arm to? That wasn't Mike, was it, in San Francisco? Was that? I don't believe it was Mike. But it was one of them safeties in San Francisco. He was running down the sideline and the guy was catching up to him. He reached back there and kept going down the sideline. That was in San Francisco. It was one of the meanest stiff arms ever. Westbrook. And then his blitz pickup. Yeah. Westbrook was good at knowing his assignments and picking up blitz for a small guy. So you have to put that into the equation because he never had the backfield for many years as the premier running back. So I think that takes away. But I tell you this, he ain't funnier than Shady. I tell you that right now. One of the funniest people you ever meet in your life is LaShawn McCoy.
I'll tell you one of the funniest, but he wasn't as funny as Shady, but one of the funniest stories I got at Westbrook. So I was still like a young player, and this is after he had just got a big deal. I forget how much he made. He had a huge deal, and I was coming out of a meeting, and I saw him. He was coming down the hall the other way, and he's like, "Hey, Q." He kind of looked around. He's like, "Hey, let me hold $2." I'm like, "Hold $2? You got millions and millions of dollars on you. Give me $2." So, but yeah, Shady was funny, man.
No, Shady would be in the middle of the game and smack Coach Reed on his butt. And Coach Reed would get tight and be blushing like, dude, I can't believe where did you get this kid from?
Oh man, dude, it was crazy.
Oh, just funny stuff. Just I have some stories about Shady that I just can't tell everybody. But one of these days they gotta come out. But I got some funny stuff that's just not appropriate for a podcast.
That's too funny,
but hilarious stuff, man.
Oh man. All right, let's get back to it. That was funny, man. I needed that one. All right. This is from Hakeem B. Is reading formations or coverages in the classroom an easy transition? This is actually a good question.
Okay.
Is it an easy transition to reading formations or coverages on the playing field? It seems like changing from a bird's eye view and the option to pause a video is simpler than actually applying that knowledge on the field. Did you have difficulty with the transition in recognizing coverages, formations, as well as maintaining your proper depth or spatial awareness from the film room to the field? So, essentially, was it difficult translating film to the field?
Yes. It all depends on where you are, what was your high school experience, what was your college experience, what's your pro experience, and all of that depends on how fast you're going to be able to pick it up. Because the eye in the sky, you see it from that bird's eye view and you can see things happening from that perspective. But yes, on the field is different and you kind of see smaller things on the field because you can't see the other side of the field. You can't always tell the proper depths. And from defensive perspective, the safety can't tell if a running back's at 6 yards or 7 yards. It's very hard, right? So you can't really tell those things. But from the film, you can see that. So you have to make it smaller, and so you can see the full picture, and you're guessing half the time. But you're guessing based on your box, and usually your box is not going to lie to you. So as a slot receiver, I'm reading my triangle, and that's what we always talk about in the football field, especially on offense and defense. We're always talking about our triangle. So my triangle is the guy that's inside of me, the guy that's nearest outside of me, and the guy that's over the top of me, right? So that's my triangle. So it's going to be the nickel defender, it's going to be one of the safeties, it's going to be the corner. And it all depends on what play it is. Sometimes it can be the Mike linebacker, it can be the nickel defender, depending on the coverage and stuff, or it can be the linebacker or whatever it may be, or the safety. But the safety doesn't lie most of the times. The safeties that, the safeties will lie, but usually you're going to see where they're coming out, where they're coming down, because the way the defense is structured, it has to be an integral defense. So if there's a big gap and there's a guy missing, you know that the safety's coming down in that spot because the defense wouldn't be set properly. It's not a solidified, solid defense if there's not a person coming down and somebody's making a mistake. So if I see all of the underneath defenders shifted over to the left and I see a safety in front of me and there's a corner outside, I'm like, oh, the safety's coming down. So even though they're playing around up top, I can see where the other safety is. It looks like cover two. I'm like, no, there's no way this is cover two, because if it's cover two, this guy would be either right over the top of me or just inside, but he's all the way over the ball. So there's other guys coming down, right? Yep. So I automatically know those things. And so you're able to translate it by seeing a smaller box. But yes, it's very, very hard to sometimes you're 90% sure on a football field. Very rarely are you 100% the entire time because of the defense coordinators, because of the looks and all those things. So you can get a play wrong, but you got to trust the smaller picture. So that's the way that I always dealt with that.
Yeah, I like that. And it's very similar too on the defensive side. The one thing that I did, so when you're watching tape and you're watching film, you try and we talked about it before, you're trying to find little tells, right? So let's say if I'm in a cover, quarters coverage, and I know that I have the tight end, right? So if he's going vertical 10 yards, I'm locked on him, right? So what I do is I take little snapshots of pre-snap and post-snap, and I do that while I'm watching film. So if let's say I'm watching tape and Jeremy Shockey, let's say every time he runs a seam route, he widens out 2 steps and he goes up the field. But anytime he runs a different route, he's running just straight up the field and in or straight up the field and out. So I'll use that and I'll just watch over and over and over and over again. And so now I got snapshots. And so that's really all you can go on, especially on defense, because it's read and react. So the second that I see Jeremy Shockey, if he's going to
with release
arc out, okay, I'm thinking seam. So I'm checking all the other routes off and I'm playing the seam. So there's a lot of different ways, and it takes a while. For some people, like you said, some people pick it up right away. For me, it took me about 3 or 4 years to really get a chance to learn enough to be able to make it onto the field to help out. Everyone's different. So for me, it just took a long time just training and how to get those snapshots and check stuff off quickly as possible.
Yeah, it took me about, I would say, at the end of my sophomore year in college, because we were running a West Coast offense, and I got tired of getting killed running shallow crosses, and I got tired of like running into people and getting hit. I got concussed in college because I was running a dig, and I was running like full throttle in the middle of the wrong defense, right? And I didn't recognize that it was cover 4, and the guy that was running shallow, that the number 2, the safety is going to double me because I'm backside, and if his number 2 goes shallow, goes underneath, he looks up number 1, right? So I didn't understand those concepts. So I'm running headlong right into the safety, and the quarterback doesn't know either, right? So I'm like, dude, hold on, wait. I'm not taking these shots anymore. So let me start to figure out who's supposed to be where. And that's the other aspect of that I missed, is that you already know what what defenses this team likes to run.
Yeah.
And like, so I already know, based on the down and distance, the chances of, I'm looking for a few things. I'm like, this is first down. These are the 2 coverages they run on first down. And now all I have to do is check that off. And if I see something different, I'm like, but it's still going to be within a coverage that I've seen, right? So, and you're going to see it. They're not going to play the same 2 defense, but there's maybe 70% of the time. And the other ones are sprinkled in, here, there. Yeah. Or on third down, I know that most teams in third and 1 to 4, most teams are going to be man to man, right? So now all I have to realize is what type of man is it, and what type of man they like to play. Is it robber? Is it cover 2 man? Is it zero? Whatever it is. So you have snapshots and statistics of coverages before the game starts. So you have that already downloaded into your mind, saying, okay, this is third down. And you have to be aware situationally. That's how players make crucial and clutch plays and real heads up plays, because they understand scenarios and situations. Yeah. All right, let me read that next question for you.
Okay.
All right. Alex W. My question for you guys is about the 2017 season. They always seem to be having fun when they went out there. How much impact does that really have on the team's success? I know momentum is a real thing and it's important to the game, but how does a player's enjoyment of the game factor into all of that? Do you guys have examples of rosters or NFL team experiences that were positive or negative and resulted in a positive or negative effect on the team's success?
That's a good question.
That is a great question.
Yeah. So that 2017 team, what they were able to accomplish was amazing. And one of the coolest things about it was the whole underdog. They had the masks and that whole, they embraced.
That was out of a movie.
What's that?
That was a whole movie,
right? And it's like that team embraced being the underdogs, and it's something that pulled that team together, something that had them all focused on one thing. And in my opinion, it 100% matters. I think it helps in many, many ways off the field, on the field, when you have that momentum, when you have that togetherness, that us against the world mentality. That's one of the most, it's hard to explain, but it's one of the most important parts of being on a team. And it's not just a football team, it's any team. The most successful teams are the ones that they fight together. They're fighting for a reason. They're playing for each other. And that is 100%. That's 100% of the reason why that team was successful, is because they came together and they found the common ground, something that they all believed in.
Yeah.
And for me, on the opposite side of it, I have been on teams like that, but I'll talk about teams that I've been on that we didn't have that. And it was my first year in St. Louis. I think we won 2 games. It was right coming out of the lockout year. And it was just, everything that could go wrong went wrong. We had maybe 20 fans in the stands. We as players, we went out there and we competed and we played hard, but after a certain while, you just kind of go in the dumps, and that momentum can go one way or the other way. And so we dropped a couple games early, and then that momentum just kept tanking us. So absolutely, I've been on both sides of it, and I can tell you without a doubt,
momentum is real.
It's not fun on the negative side. What about you?
So I believe that if you love what you do and your mentality is pure and your mind is on the right stuff, you're going to enjoy what you do. And if you are enjoying what you do, the same enjoyment is going to produce the same energy that you have. That enjoyment is going to produce that when you go out on the field. And when you go out on the field, you become contagious because of the type of energy that you have, the love that you have, the type of mindset that you have. Those things are contagious. There are certain players that are invaluable to a team and a team's success, i.e., not just Tom Brady because he's a great quarterback. Tom Brady's love for the game of football is so infectious that people gravitate to it, and he's able to change a whole culture because of his love and passion for the game. And if you can get enough people in the locker room that has that type of fervor, that type of passion and love what they do, liking it, the team usually responds to it. Now, there's certain things that can throw a wrench into that. For an example, favoritism by coaches. General managers or higher ups making decisions that are not in the best interest of the team, but they could be for the right cap move or because of some political move that they have to make because this guy was drafted first round and this guy was drafted in the 5th round. Or this guy was undrafted and this guy was drafted, but the undrafted player is so much better and everybody on the team knows it. When you start having those things right there begin to affect the mentality that's been established by the players, and they love to be out there, but they start to realize that you don't really want to win the game and you don't want the best people on the team, that begins to mess up the psyche of a lot of players. And now what you get is a business approach. And when you get a business approach, I run a business, ladies and gentlemen. If the kids or the people that work for you, whoever it may be, your employees, your staff, your teammates, whatever it may be, if they don't feel valued and if they don't feel that if you can't keep them interested and engaged, they're going to pick up the broom and they're going to sweep and they're going to pick up 50% of what's on the floor. If they mop, it's going to be, they're just wetting the floor. They're not trying to get up anything that's on the floor. They're just making sure that the word mop has been applied to the floor, but they didn't actually get any stains or anything out of the floor, any right? Or what have you. They're going to do the bare minimum. And that's the type of mentality that the NFL, that prevails in the NFL, because there's so much underhanded political mumbo jumbo that takes away the pureness. And the kid that comes in starry eyed and saying, man, I love this. And before you know it, bah, bah, boom, boom, free agent, better than not. Like, you like, yo, what happened? Like, I'm a free agent. I'm better than this dude that's drafted third round. My whole team sees this, but y'all still making him a starter, or you cut me over this. And when you see that over and over again, it jades you. And that's what happens in the NFL. And that's a form of momentum that's kind of hard to overcome sometimes.
I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
And that's and everything that you said right there just is further proof that you have to build your team, you have to build your locker room the right way. You have to have a hand and a thumbprint and your finger on the pulse of what's going on with your team, what's going on with your locker room. And once you lose it, it's a wrap. So again, I agree 100%. The teams that have a finger on that, and the teams that understand that part of it, understand that locker room, understand that momentum, are the ones that are successful.
Yeah.
And that's
facts.
The way you put that is amazing.
No, it's facts. The thing is that the NFL, right? So these teams, that the 2017 team. Let me tell you guys something right now. Look at me. Me and my old man head. Listen, the team was Super Bowl champions, but they were not perfect. There was a lot of tension and a lot of dislike, a lot of drama, because what family do you know besides TV families that don't have drama? Right? So it's not all hunky dory. And yes, you guys have the same vision and same goal. But what can overcome that? What can overcome discord? What can overcome any of that is wins and the key positions playing well. And that's where quarterbacks come in. The quarterback play in 2017 was amazing. So you're able to overcome a lot of personality problems. You're able to overcome, even if a guy is mad that he's not getting the ball, they winning, so you can't say nothing. So you suffering in silence. You know what I mean?
Real. Yeah.
And that's just real. You like, man, I want to be T.O. right now. I want to be, you know what I mean? Throw me the damn ball, Keyshawn Johnson right now, but I'm winning. I look like an idiot and I can't get a job after that.
Yep. But a lot of y'all receivers do that anyway.
Some
of y'all.
But listen, man, we always open, man. They need more football to throw around in this game. This ain't enough. You know what I mean? It ain't enough. Oh my God! Yeah, it's only one good looking woman in the football field. It's the ball. You know what I mean? There's a lot of good looking students that's going after that ball, man.
That's crazy, man. That's what, and then y'all really do think y'all open on every play. That's the thing that drives me crazy.
We do.
Like you have a DB right next to you.
I'm open. You ain't nobody. You ain't gonna stop me from getting the ball. He can't even catch. Yeah, of course I'm open. He's talking about he got two his hands are taped. He can't catch. Right? His hands are wrapped up. His hands, he out there like this. Fingers don't even open. So yes, I'm open. Always.
That's too funny, man. I love it.
Oh man.
All right. Let's see where we at.
Yeah, Chris B.
Okay. Yeah, this one's for you.
Yeah.
Jason, could you go into what it was like playing in the up-tempo offense under Chip Kelly? From the loud techno blasting practices to the strict diets to the players' feelings during the games, like all the quick series and all the quick 3 and outs. What the players actually thought about it when the coaches weren't around. I would really like to hear an honest opinion from someone who was having to go through it all. It seemed crazy at the time, and I always thought that the players on both sides of the ball had to really hate it compared to playing on the regular scheme.
Hindsight is 2020, but I promise you guys, listen, when I heard them say that they were hiring Chip Kelly, my first call was to Jeremy Macklin. I said it'll be nice. Yeah, like it's been nice. It's been a good time rolling with you. You know, that was my first conversation was with Jeremy Macklin. And I should have went through with it and just said, you know what, just trade me now. That's my one regret. I should have just went to Kansas City right then and there. I should have just went. I knew.
Yeah.
I knew. Because smoke and mirrors never work in a football field. It's a good change up. It's a good for a little bit. The game will always come down to a few things. Can you block them? Can you tackle them? Can you catch it? And can you turn it over? Listen, that's the game of football. The teams that can tackle, the teams that can block, the teams that can catch, and the teams that can turn the ball over, those teams are going to be successful. All of this other stuff, you know what? I was done when I heard the comment that we got to be in shape because when the defense tires down, you know, let me say it the right way. That it's not about how many plays you have, right? We can run these plays over and over again, these same plays over and over again, because when the defense gets tired, they basically get delirious. Like, hold on, wait, what? Do you know these are NFL players? Do you know they've been playing? You know how many games that we've been playing to get here? You think that people actually get tired in games? Coach, we get tired in practice. We don't get tired in the game unless the game is just a track meet and it's 100 degrees outside and you got 4 or 5 receivers. I've been in games where we had 4 receivers and we were running no huddle the entire game and all of us were on special teams. Now you get tired when stuff like that happens. Yeah. But for the most part, when there's 5 or 6 active receivers and only 2 of them are playing special teams, and listen, they ain't getting tired. Them 4 quarters ain't nothing to them. That you thriving.
Yeah.
So when you begin to think about stuff like that, it was just my honest opinion. I thought it was disrespectful to the game of football. Now, that's me coming from old school football. Bo Schembechler got me on the football field at the University of Michigan, right? By him going up to Lloyd Carr, said, look, 81, number 8 catches the ball all the time. Why he's not playing? The next day I was starting. Oh, wow. Right? Like he catches the ball all the time and he's tough. You know what I mean? And that's all he knew. He knew, look, he never loses the Michigan drill. That means that the defensive back and the receiver, you 5 yards away from each other, you run full speed into each other, and you can't let them tackle the ball carrier. We did that practice all the time. So I'm used to the fundamentals of the game of football. When you start getting into all of this smoke and mirror stuff, that type of stuff you do when you're scared. That's the way I've always been trained. And that's the way I view it today. It's sleight of hand. I'm trying to make you tired and run like, no. I'm trying to throw bubble screens and outflank a guy. That's the offense that you run when you run that offense at New Hampshire. You know why? Because you can't block nobody at New Hampshire. You run it at Oregon because USC's been kicking the doors off of Oregon for years and you can't block anybody. So you create this offense that kind of outflanks people and gets the ball out of the hand quick so they don't have to block people for a long time. And you can't play football like that. So I disliked it vehemently. I vehemently disliked it. It was distasteful. It was like cod liver oil or castor oil as a little kid. In my opinion, anybody know what that is the medicine your grandmother used to have and way back in the cabinet when you got sick.
Or when you got in trouble.
When you got in trouble. Like, that's what it was like. So during that time, I thought it was disaster. And then you couple that with a Napoleon complex, right? You couple that with that type of mentality of, he's always right. And you getting mad at intelligent players voicing their concerns about running the same play 6 times in a row.
That makes no sense.
Like, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and they would get mad at me and mad at the Celtics and mad at, you know, the guys that been around the league because we questioned it. And there was a meeting in my locker room at one point after every practice.
Wow.
I'm like, dude, man, y'all can get me fired.
With the players,
The players, because they would always come to me like, dude, like, because I was their voice. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, man, let's keep fighting. We got the rest of the season out. And they're like, Jay, stop being phony, man.
I mean, I remember, you know, being in the building, just doing, you know, just kind of helping out, and this is like when I thought I was gonna, you know, be coaching at that level. So I just really wanted to get a little bit of experience, and I remember being like, "There's no way I could play on this team. Like, I don't know how you guys did it. I mean, everything from the sleep bracelets to the constant hydration tests every day. I mean, it just seemed like over.
It was micromanaging.
It was micromanaging, and I just remember I would be like, I felt like if I played on that team, I would have felt like I was in college or high school. Like that's how it felt, and you know,
it was. They got on. I used to get in trouble all the time for not having a hydration test, or not sleeping with my sleep monitor. I'm like, dude, I'm not like it's like I'm like if I'm at home, I'm at home. Why do you want to know what time I go to sleep? Like I'm 30 years old, and you trying to tell me I had a bedtime? Man, stop playing with me, man. Stop it right now. Stop it.
Oh man.
So you know, I don't know.
I couldn't do it.
Can't do it. But it didn't last, and the reason it didn't last is because he thought his system was better than the players, and he thought his system was more powerful than needing players. And systems come and go. Players will win you games.
My last point on that before we go on to the next one is I often and at times I just kind of sat there and, you know, watching. I'm like, can you imagine if they tried this with Trot or they tried this with Doc or Trey Thomas or John Runyon? Like,
it's a different time. I think older. That's why he had to ship everybody out of there. And that's why you had to ship everybody out of there that was shipped out. You had to ship out LaShawn. You had to ship out, you know, Jeremy even. You had to ship out Deshaun. And you had to ship out most of your team, all of your players. And those are good players. They weren't bad players. You had to ship out your team just because there's not many people that's going to buy into that. For God's sake, look, forgive me for using the name, but for Pete's sake, the dude had us doing 3-man weaves before NFL football game. I've never been more embarrassed in my life. Every time we did the 3-man weave, I went to the bathroom. You laughing? That was embarrassing. I'm like, what are we doing? Why? And I would ask him, like, why are we doing a 3-man weave? You know, we just getting used to the ball in our hands.
Oh, cracking up over here. I can't even imagine.
Man, I want to be like, man, you remember, like, I want to be like, you know, that's probably politically incorrect, but the Cosby Show when Theo would come up with his great plans and Mr. Cosby would say, Mr. Huxley would say, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. I feel like Sanford and Son Lamont. You big dummy. That's what I felt like hearing that stuff. I'm like, man, this is some stupid stuff. Because when you come from Coach Reed, who's one of the premier minds that have ever played this game, people emulate him and his play calling for years and taking plays and stealing stuff from him. Half the NFL is trying to mimic the Kansas City Chiefs and their plays. And when you come from a person that can scheme anybody up to a dude that wants to run, there'll be times in Coach Reed's offense, we wouldn't see a play for another 10 weeks. You had your base offense, and your base offense doesn't change. But those 15, 20 new plays that we would have, those plays didn't come back for another 4 or 5 weeks at the minimum.
And we talking about literally running the same play 4 or 5 times in a row. And I'm like, this is just laziness. This is absurd.
Oh my goodness.
And then they would get mad at you for doing something different in the route. Oh, so you want me to run the same play 6 times over the ball the same exact way? You don't think he know it?
Right. They watch tape.
Yeah, you don't think they hurrying up, we getting in the same formation, and we just ran it. You don't think by the second time we run that play, the dude beat me like, oh, he going over. He going over. I'll meet you over there.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's like playing Madden. I'm playing my son in Madden. He running the same play over and over. I'm gonna start hit sticking them.
These are hit sticking them. Yeah, and remember I told you Chris Harris can cover me. That's why Chris Harris can cover me. Playing against dogs.
Because he knew the route. He
knew every route we were running.
That's a shame, man. Oh, yeah. That's a shame.
Yeah. We're going to get off of this. We're gonna ask this one question. We can like kind of gloss over this, and this is something that you and I can kind of discuss. This is about JJ Arcega-Whiteside, and you want to take a shot at the name Ganayu? I think that's about.
Yeah, Ganayu.
Sorry for butchering your name. Ganayu. When it comes to Arcega-Whiteside, a lot of people think he's on the outside looking in for making the 53-man roster, right? But at the same time, we don't have many receivers with size and can serve as a target in the red zone outside of Arcega-Whiteside and Travis Fulgham. How would he not make the roster? Do you think he would make the roster, or what is the possibility of bringing in a veteran receiver of size to make the roster? I'll let you go at that. Or are you looking at me?
I want to know. I'm gonna say like my only, and you could probably you'll probably have a better answer for it than me, but to me personally, I don't think that you necessarily I don't think you keep a guy on the 53 just for being in the red zone purposes.
Never.
And so,
agreed.
You know, that's my whole take on it. There's multiple ways where you can manufacture plays to get a big target in the red zone. When we're talking in the red zone, we're talking maybe 20% of your plays the entire season. So
yeah,
it's going to be tough to keep a guy just strictly off of that. But I'll let you. You have a better insight.
No, listen, that's a great synopsis of it. It's great. That's great. You like. Here's the thing. You want to be so versatile as an offense that you don't have clear indicators.
Yeah.
And if I'm taking out Jalen Reagor or Devontae Smith to put in JJ Arcega-Whiteside, it's only two things that's going to happen. If he's lined up tight, he's blocking the safety, adding into the run game. If he's lined up wide, we're throwing the ball up to him. It's very, very easy to decode.
Yep.
And it makes you very predictable. So you want players that are versatile where everything looks the same. And that's why it benefits you by having a star receiver, a star tight end or running back that are versatile. Therefore, you don't have to bring in somebody for short yards runs. You don't have to bring in the strong tight end because the guy can't block. All of these things are swept under the rug, but the teams that have these one-dimensional players, it's very, very hard for them to win it all that way. The teams that are very versatile, the running backs are versatile, receivers are versatile. They can do a lot of things. Like Mike Evans can run block. He can catch deep balls. He can go over the middle. He can do it all.
Yeah.
Right? When you can Gronk down in Tampa, they just won it all. He can do it all. He can run. He can block. He can, run after the catch. He can catch the jump ball. You have it. Their backs down there can do the same stuff. So you have a complement of players that are versatile. And so you want to go toward that direction. Right now, the Eagles are specialized. They have a bunch of small guys. And yes, you want a guy like Travis Fulgham and a guy like JJ Arcega-Whiteside. I think the mentality of a big guy being big is, or just to throw him jump balls, I think that's a farce.
Yeah.
The most competitive in the red zone wins.
It's true.
The person that gets the opportunities, right? Because red zone comes down to opportunities. And usually if you can get the most competitive person, you get that person the ball, because I saw a different light come on with T.O.
Yes.
With Steve Smith Sr.
Yeah.
He's the littlest guy on the field. Amazing in the red zone because he's pound for pound, maybe the most competitive person that I have ever come across in my lifetime is Steve Smith.
Yeah.
Just a dog competitor. And when you think of those things, that's the person that you want with the ball. So whether JJ Arcega-Whiteside is 6'5", or if he's 6'3", does he have that type of dog? And usually that's the guy that wins jump balls. It ain't just a nice guy that's just going to go that can just jump over people. No, it's the competitive dude.
Right.
Travis Kelce's competitive.
Yeah.
George Kittle's competitive.
Yeah.
All of these guys that catch multiple touchdowns, Devontae Adams, they're competitive. And that's the ingredient, not the size.
That's perfect right there.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So
there is an opportunity there. He's got to want to go get it. And,
exactly.
He's in a good position with the new coaching staff. He's got an opportunity to wipe the slate clean. He's got an opportunity to make that happen for himself. So I'm pulling for him. I hope he does step up, get that dog in him. A lot of players on this team, I think, will need to step up their dogism, as you say, and get that fight back in them. So
yeah,
interesting to see.
And the Eagles have been drafting a lot of kids, and they've been drafting a lot of kids that are that. And this is gonna sound bad. Forgive me, I gotta say this, but they've been drafting a lot of kids that like. And this is something on the football field, and I'll give you guys some insight. Like, coaches like drafting kids that come from the bottom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not necessarily that they coming from, the Odd Garden projects or me or, Robert Taylor Holmes or something like that. But somebody that had some strain in their life, some struggle, some hard times, some military family moving over, whatever it is, some struggle, some hardship. Those kids have fought and already learned how to channel that competitiveness. It's not new for them. And they're built to punch you in the face. They are.
Yeah.
So that usually equates to an amazing football player. And the Eagles have been drafting, real good kids. They'll be great accountants. They'll be great doctors and, managers of a business, but you need some dogs to play this game.
Yeah.
Because the real dogs are going to attack the kid that had a life of comfort and may have the talent.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. No, shoot. And
the average mindset without sports and knowledge of this level of football may take that as a slight or disrespect or being politically incorrect. but
No, there's
you gotta
dogs
have some
everywhere.
you gotta have some gangster in you. And even if
Yeah,
you come you don't have to be from the hood,
yeah,
but you gotta have some gangster in you. You gotta have some that kid that kept getting kicked out of class because he wouldn't take that crap from a teacher. We need that.
yeah.
It's that kid.
That kid, But and then you can find dogs in anybody. So here's a perfect example for me. I hate to even say it because I hate playing against him, but to me, a guy that grew up rich, had money, that dog in him was Eli Manning, and you would see it come out in crunch times when he would basically put the team on his back and say, "All right, let's go." And he'll talk trash. He'll talk trash back with you. Like
Yeah.
he's not no punk. So it doesn't necessarily. I think I agree with you 100%. It helps when you've had a lifetime of struggle, but you don't necessarily have to be from the hood or whatever to have that dog in you. And that's what I think that's what you're saying. 100%.
Exactly. You don't necessarily need to be from that, but the common thread there is three brothers that's already been great and that's beating your butt so you're the bottom of the barrel, right?
Yeah.
So there's some struggle there.
Yeah.
And then it's a quarterback, so you don't have to have a struggle. It's a quarterback. You don't need a struggle. It's a quarterback. So whole different category, whole different conversation.
Right?
Whole different conversation.
That was just the first thing that popped in my head. Like I hated playing that dude.
Yeah.
So all right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is another episode of the Q&A show. We want to say thank you guys for tuning in. And we appreciate all of the feedback. Make sure that you're sending your questions to insidethebirds@gmail.com. We want to shout out Adam and Jeff and Hunter and Jim and everybody that's responsible, Josh and whoever else that's responsible for the production and also having us on the Inside the Birds platform. I'm signing out. Jason Avant from the Q&A show. We have a blast with this, and I'm going to let my man, Quintin Mikell, have the last words.
Yes, sir. Hey, it was another great show as always, man. And I say this every week. I learn so much from listening to you, and I hope the fans are too. And continue to drop them questions, and let's have some fun with this.
Having fun. Q with the analysis, breaking down coverages and all type of stuff. They were giving him some serious questions today. So that's good.
Good questions. So, and then I think next week we're going to get into a little bit of the NFC East, right?
NFC East preview.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. We got some good stuff coming this week.
Cool.
All right.
Peace.